For 100 years, Earth said nothing. No ambassadors crossed the stars. No human fleets challenged alien borders. No messages answered the endless broadcasts from the Galactic Council. To the rest of the galaxy, humanity had simply vanished. The silence began after the Battle of Sol, a war so devastating that billions across the galaxy watched it unfold through emergency transmissions. A coalition of 12 alien empires had arrived at Earth's doorstep, demanding complete surrender. Humanity refused. The battle lasted only 11 hours. Earth's orbital defenses were shattered. Cities burned beneath orbital bombardments. Space stations became fields of molten debris. Yet before the coalition could celebrate, every surviving human fleet jumped away into deep space. Then, nothing. No revenge. No surrender. No peace treaty. Only silence. A century later, inside the gleaming Galactic Council chamber orbiting the capital world of Elysium Prime, representatives from over 400 civilizations gathered beneath the enormous crystal dome. Grand Chancellor Varex stood before the assembly. The human threat, he declared confidently, has ended. Applause echoed through the chamber. Their colonies have disappeared. Their technology is obsolete. Their species has likely collapsed. The audience nodded in agreement. Many younger delegates had never even seen a human. To them, humanity had become little more than an old bedtime story, a warning parents used to frighten reckless children. Behave, they would say, or the humans will return. Laughter filled the chamber. No one believed those stories anymore. Except one. At the edge of the room sat Ambassador Lyra of the Ketheri Republic. Unlike the others, she had survived the Battle of Sol. She still remembered the final transmission intercepted exactly 100 years ago. A human admiral had appeared on every frequency. His face was covered in blood. Behind him, Earth burned. Yet his voice never trembled. We are not surrendering. We are preparing. Then the transmission ended forever. Lyra had spent the next century studying every unexplained event across known space. Entire mining outposts disappearing. Ancient shipyards stripped clean overnight. Deep space probes detecting impossible energy signatures before suddenly going offline. The Council dismissed them all as equipment failures. Lyra never did. She quietly activated a hidden hologram. Thousands of unexplained incidents appeared across the galactic map. Every single one formed an invisible ring around the Milky Way's outer edge. Someone had been building something for 100 years. Before she could speak, alarms suddenly echoed through the council chamber. Every holographic display flashed crimson. Unknown signal detected. Military officers rushed to their stations. Origin. No known coordinates. Identification. None. Then every communication screen across the galaxy activated simultaneously. Every civilization. Every warship. Every colony. Every home. Static filled the screens. The room fell silent. Slowly, a single figure emerged from the interference. An elderly human wearing a dark military uniform. His hair was completely white. His eyes were calm. Behind him stretched an endless command bridge unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Rows upon rows of officers stood silently at attention. The old admiral looked directly into the camera. For several long seconds, he said nothing. Then he finally spoke. You had 100 years. You used them to celebrate. We used them to remember. Behind him, the stars disappeared. Not because the transmission failed, but because something unimaginably massive moved between the ship and the light itself. For a long, breathless moment, no one in the galaxy spoke. The transmission remained perfectly clear. The elderly human admiral stood motionless, his hands folded behind his back, his expression unreadable. Around him, hundreds of officers waited in absolute silence, each wearing the same dark gray uniform marked with a single silver emblem. A soaring eagle encircled by stars. Grand Chancellor Varex forced a laugh. A recording, he scoffed. An old psychological trick. Several council members nodded, relieved to hear an explanation. Then the admiral blinked. Slowly, he looked directly into the council chamber, as if he could see every delegate individually. "No," he said calmly. "This is live." A chill swept across the room. The galaxy's most advanced signal analysts immediately began scanning the transmission. No delay. No relay satellites. No quantum distortion. It's originating from outside every known hyperspace network. That was impossible. Nothing could broadcast across the galaxy without using the Council's communication grid. Yet the signal ignored every law of physics the scientists understood. The Admiral continued. "When your fleets left Sol 100 years ago, you believed humanity had been defeated. You counted our burning cities. You counted our dead. But you never counted our survivors." The holographic image behind him shifted. Suddenly, the galaxy saw thousands of enormous construction platforms floating inside a dark region beyond the edge of explored space. Stars had been hidden behind colossal orbital shipyards. Planet-sized factories forged hulls that stretched for dozens of kilometers. Entire moons had been transformed into fusion reactors. Asteroids disappeared into automated foundries and emerged as battleships. Every second, another warship joined the fleet. Gasps echoed through the council chamber. Military experts stared in disbelief. No civilization possesses industry on this scale. Impossible. That production would require an entire century. Ambassador Lyra quietly whispered, "They had a century." The Admiral nodded slightly. "Correct. We never rebuilt Earth. We rebuilt humanity." The image changed again. A fleet emerged from the darkness. Not hundreds. Not thousands. Millions. Massive dreadnoughts formed endless formations stretching farther than sensors could measure. Carrier worlds surrounded by escort fleets. Titan-class battle stations larger than small planets. Swarms of autonomous destroyers moving with perfect precision. Every vessel carried the same silver insignia. Not a single formation was out of place. Not a single engine burned unnecessarily. The fleet waited in complete silence. The galaxy realized something terrifying. This wasn't an army assembled in panic. This was an army perfected through 100 years of preparation. Grand Chancellor Verex slammed his fists onto the council desk. "Activate the Grand Fleet immediately." Orders spread across thousands of systems. Defense stations powered up. Shipyards rushed unfinished warships into service. Planetary shields ignited across the core worlds. But before any fleet could mobilize, every tactical display suddenly froze. One by one, military networks went dark. Navigation systems shut down. Long-range scanners stopped responding. Across the galaxy, officers stared helplessly at black screens. Confused voices filled every command center. "What happened? We've lost control. Our systems are being overridden." The human admiral spoke once more, his voice calm and unwavering. "For 100 years, while you searched the stars, we quietly entered your networks. We mapped every defense. We studied every strategy. And today..." He paused as countless human warships ignited their engines simultaneously, their blue-white light illuminating the darkness beyond the galactic rim. "Our silence ends." The moment the Admiral's final words echoed across the galaxy, every human warship accelerated at once. There was no battle cry. No declaration of war. Only absolute precision. Millions of vessels vanished into hyperspace in perfect synchronization, leaving behind nothing but fading streaks of blue light. Across the Galactic Council, panic erupted. "They're heading for the core worlds. Estimate arrival time." A navigation officer stared at his console, his face drained of color. 3 minutes. The chamber fell silent. "That's impossible," Grand Chancellor Verex shouted. "The fastest fleet would need 3 weeks." The officer swallowed hard. "Not anymore." 3 minutes later, the first human fleet emerged above Cryo's Gate, the galaxy's largest military fortress. For nearly 2 centuries, Cryo's Gate had been considered invincible. Its planetary shields could withstand supernova-level bombardments. 20,000 defense platforms orbited the fortress. More than 50,000 warships guarded its perimeter. Every military academy taught the same lesson. No force can capture Cryo's gate. Then humanity arrived. Without firing a single shot, the human flagship moved slowly toward the fortress while hundreds of sleek drones detached from its hull. The defenders laughed. Mining drones. They're attacking us with construction equipment? The drones reached the shield barrier. Tiny beams of silver light spread across its surface like cracks in frozen glass. Within seconds, the shield collapsed, not from overwhelming force, but because it had been rewritten from the inside. Gasps filled every command bridge. Our shield codes, they've changed. We're locked out. Before anyone could react, human boarding vessels slipped through the open barrier. No explosions. No chaos. Only speed. Within 11 minutes, the galaxy's greatest fortress belonged to humanity. The defenders were stunned to discover something unexpected. The humans had not executed a single prisoner. Medical teams treated the wounded, enemy and human alike. Power was restored to civilian districts. Food supplies were protected. Even terrified families hiding underground received emergency broadcasts. Remain calm. Civilians are not our enemy. News of humanity's discipline spread faster than the battle itself. Some alien commanders refused to believe the reports. Others became even more afraid. Because an army that fought without hatred was far more dangerous than one driven by revenge. Back on Elysium Prime, emergency meetings continued without pause. The Council demanded retaliation. Fleet after fleet launched toward Cryo's gate. Over 2 million coalition warships entered hyperspace. It was the largest military response in galactic history. Ambassador Lyra watched silently. "They're making the same mistake," she whispered. No one listened. Hours later, the coalition fleet exited hyperspace. The officers expected to find a massive human armada waiting. Instead, Cryo's gate floated peacefully. Human ships were gone. Confused commanders began scanning the system. Where did they go? Then sensors detected something behind them. Every captain slowly turned toward the main view screen. The stars disappeared. An object larger than a moon drifted silently out of hyperspace. Then another, and another, and another. These were not warships. They were mobile fortresses, planet-sized battle platforms carrying thousands of heavy cannons and protected by layered shields unlike anything the galaxy had ever built. The coalition fleet suddenly realized the horrifying truth. Cryo's gate had never been the target. It had been the bait. The human admiral appeared once again on every military channel. His voice remained calm. "You spent 100 years preparing for the last war. We spent 100 years preparing for the next." Behind him, the colossal fortress cannons began to glow with brilliant blue energy. The first volley had not yet been fired, but every commander already knew. The balance of power in the galaxy had changed forever. The blue light from the human fortress cannons spread across the darkness like the birth of new stars. Every coalition commander braced for annihilation. On the bridge of the lead alien flagship, Admiral Korv gripped the command rail. "All ships," he ordered, "fire everything." 2 million warships unleashed the largest barrage in galactic history. Plasma beams, antimatter torpedoes, graviton lances, missiles by the millions. The void itself seemed to ignite. For several seconds, the human fortresses disappeared behind an ocean of explosions. Cheers erupted across coalition channels. "We got them." But the celebration lasted only moments. As the firestorm faded, the human fortresses emerged untouched. Not a single shield had collapsed. Instead of glowing blue, their defensive barriers shimmered with a strange silver light that absorbed the incoming energy and redirected it harmlessly into space. A horrified scientist aboard one coalition cruiser whispered, "They're not blocking our weapons. They're feeding on them." Silence spread across every bridge. Then, for the first time since the war began, the human fleet opened fire. No blinding storms. No endless bombardment. Each fortress released a single beam of concentrated white light. One shot. One target. One hit. Entire battleships lost power instantly, drifting silently through space without exploding. Weapons shut down. Engines died. Shields vanished. The humans weren't destroying the fleet. They were disabling it. Within 20 minutes, over half of the coalition armada floated helplessly in space. No escape. No resistance. Grand Chancellor Varex watched the disaster unfold from the council chamber. This can't be happening. His military advisor turned pale. It already has. Then every screen in the chamber switched to the human admiral once again. His face remained calm, almost sorrowful. A century ago, he said, you stood above Earth's burning cities and called it justice. You believed strength gave you the right to rule. You believed fear would keep the galaxy united. He paused, letting the silence settle. You were wrong. At that exact moment, emergency alerts erupted across the core worlds. Not attacks. Discoveries. Hidden human reconnaissance satellites, placed decades earlier, were activating around hundreds of strategic systems. Sleeper drones emerged from asteroid belts. Stealth stations uncloaked near military headquarters. Entire supply routes were suddenly under human control. One by one, alien governments realized the terrifying truth. Humanity hadn't invaded the galaxy. They had quietly surrounded it over the last 100 years. Without anyone noticing, panic spread through civilian populations, but something unexpected happened. Human broadcasts reached every inhabited world. The same message appeared in hundreds of alien languages. Remain calm. Humanity is not at war with civilians. Stay inside your homes. Medical services, power grids, and food supplies will not be harmed. Across dozens of liberated worlds, civilians looked outside expecting destruction. Instead, they saw human engineers repairing damaged infrastructure. Medical ships treated injured children regardless of species. Convoys delivered food to cities caught in the chaos. The contrast stunned the galaxy. The empire that had once called humans savages was now watching them protect innocent lives, even those of their former enemies. Back aboard the flagship, a young officer turned toward the elderly admiral. Sir, we've won. Shall we begin Phase 2? The admiral looked out at the stars, where thousands of disabled enemy ships drifted silently. His expression hardened. Not yet. The galaxy still has one final choice. He pressed a single command. Across every world, every ship, and every communication network, one message appeared. Surrender your weapons, or witness what humanity spent 100 years preparing to unleash. The message echoed across every inhabited world. Surrender your weapons, or witness what humanity spent 100 years preparing to unleash. For the first time in recorded galactic history, every major government faced the same impossible decision. Fight and risk extinction, or surrender to the very species they had once tried to erase. Across the core worlds, military commanders argued fiercely. Some demanded one final attack. Others stared at the tactical maps in stunned silence. Every strategic route, every supply depot, every major fleet anchor had already been surrounded by human forces. There was no path to victory. Grand Chancellor Varex refused to believe it. We still outnumber them, he shouted. An intelligence officer slowly shook his head. No, Chancellor, we only thought we did. A new report appeared on the central display. For 100 years, humanity had hidden entire star systems behind advanced gravitational cloaking fields. Those systems contained countless shipyards, research worlds, orbital factories, and training academies. While the galaxy celebrated its victory after the Battle of Sol, humanity had become stronger than anyone imagined. The silence had never been fear. It had been preparation. As despair spread through the council, Ambassador Lyra stood. She looked directly at Varex. I warned this chamber for a century. No one listened. Then she turned toward the massive holographic screen. I request permission to speak with the human high command. Moments later, the elderly admiral appeared once again. The chamber fell completely silent. Lyra lowered her head respectfully. Tell us the truth. Did you spend 100 years planning revenge? The admiral remained quiet for several seconds before answering. No. We spent 100 years making sure we would never need revenge again. Those words echoed through the chamber. Even Varex stopped speaking. The admiral continued. When your coalition attacked Earth, you believed peace could be enforced through fear. You burned our cities. You hunted our colonies. You tried to erase our future. He looked into the camera with calm, unwavering eyes. So we built a future no one could ever erase. With a single command, the tactical map changed. Instead of showing human fleets preparing to attack, it displayed them withdrawing from hundreds of occupied systems. Planetary shields were restored. Captured warships were released. Supply lines reopened. Medical aid continued flowing to every affected world. Confused whispers spread across the council. "They're leaving?" The admiral nodded. "We did not come to conquer the galaxy. We came to end the age of conquest." Then came the announcement that would reshape history forever. The Galactic Council is dissolved. In its place, every civilization, large or small, will have an equal voice. No empire will rule through fear again. No species will stand above another. And if anyone ever attempts genocide as they did against Earth, the stars behind him brightened as millions of human warships aligned in perfect formation. Humanity will return. Months later, the galaxy looked completely different. Former enemies traded freely. Military budgets were redirected toward rebuilding devastated worlds. Joint scientific missions explored regions of space once closed by endless wars. The Battle of Sol was no longer remembered as humanity's greatest defeat. It became the moment that forged its greatest strength. At the center of the restored Earth stood a simple black monument engraved with one sentence. We stayed silent for 100 years, so the next 100 could know peace. And throughout the galaxy, children of every species learned the same lesson. Never mistake silence for weakness. Sometimes, silence is the sound of history preparing to change.